Samuel Blake stood on the deck of the Galactic Council flagship, his boots echoing in the sterile, silent space. His eyes, shielded behind the dark lenses of his helmet, scanned the imposing figure of the Council's chamber. The towering aliens, an assortment of reptilian, insectoid, and amphibious species, watched him with a cold disdain. To them, he was an anomaly, a lone human in a sea of superior beings. "You're the one they sent?" The voice came from Chancellor Vroker, a creature whose leathery, purple skin shimmered under the artificial lights. His glowing, multifaceted eyes flicked over Sam with barely disguised amusement. The words dripped with condescension. "Fascinating. One man, to deal with a galactic crisis." Sam resisted the urge to crack his knuckles. "One man. One Navy SEAL." His voice was a low, gravelly drawl, confident but with an underlying edge of restraint. He had learned long ago to keep his composure when out of his element. In this room, he was very much out of his element. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for millennia, their advanced technologies and ancient wisdom far beyond anything humanity could boast. And yet they had come to him. Vroker's six-fingered hand gestured dismissively, and the other council members muttered among themselves. The room was filled with the hum of alien dialects, but the message was clear: humans weren't welcome here. They were a young, reckless species that had yet to prove themselves on a galactic scale. "We've studied your race," Vroker continued, his voice cutting through the quiet buzz. "The humans have no place in galactic diplomacy. You've done little more than destroy and conquer amongst yourselves. What makes you think you can be of any help now?" Sam didn't flinch. He had heard this before, from every alien species that had encountered humanity. Weak, primitive, violent, these were the labels they had slapped on Earth's people. He wasn't here to defend humanity's honor. He was here to complete the mission. "The situation is simple," Sam said, stepping forward. His boots clicked on the polished floor with deliberate force. "You need someone who can get into enemy territory, bypass all your fancy shields and sensors, and disable their superweapon. That's me. End of story." The council members exchanged glances, some bemused, others skeptical. Vroker stared at him for a long, unsettling moment before speaking again. "And what makes you think you're up to the task? This isn't a primitive battlefield. The enemy has weapons that could erase entire fleets. You think one human can stop them? I think one human can do what an entire fleet can't." Sam shot back. His voice was unwavering, and the weight of his words lingered in the air. "I'm not a diplomat. I don't negotiate. I kill what needs killing and move on. You want results? I'm your man." Vroker's expression darkened, but the Chancellor made no further comment. Instead, an alien officer, one of the Council's top military strategists, stepped forward, holographic maps of the enemy's position flickering in the air. The officer's mandibles clicked as it spoke, its words translated into Sam's ear via an implanted device. "The alien faction that threatens the galaxy, the Christians, have breached our borders. They've developed a weapon capable of destroying entire planets, and their fleet is nearly invulnerable to traditional attack. If we don't act soon, their empire will expand across the galaxy, and nothing will stand in their way." Sam's gaze hardened. This wasn't just about proving humanity's worth, it was about saving billions of lives, human and alien alike. He wasn't sure if the Council truly understood the magnitude of the situation. It wasn't just their kingdoms that were at risk, it was the galaxy as a whole. "You'll be given a small team of operatives to assist you," the officer continued, flicking through various data points with the precision of a machine. "But you will be the one to disable their flagship's core. There is no other way." Sam studied the hologram of the enemy fleet. The Christians were formidable, cruel, methodical, and ruthless. Their ships had a dark, menacing design, built to intimidate as much as to destroy. And that superweapon. It made Sam's stomach churn just to think about it. He had seen weapons of mass destruction before, but nothing like this. "Fine," Sam said after a pause, his finger tracing the projection. "I'll get it done." Vroker didn't seem pleased with Sam's confidence, but there was a flicker of respect in his alien eyes. "We shall see." The meeting ended abruptly, the council members dispersing to prepare for the next phase of their long-standing galactic schemes. Sam stood in the center of the room, the weight of the mission pressing down on him. His thoughts were focused, laser-sharp, but a part of him still burned with the desire to prove the galaxy wrong. To show them that humanity, despite all its flaws, could rise to the challenge. As the alien officers led him to the docking bay where his transport awaited, Sam's mind raced. He had fought in wars, endured hellish conditions, and survived every trial that had been thrown at him. But this was different. This wasn't a war between human factions. This was a fight for the future of the galaxy. The Christians weren't just enemies. They were a cancer, a threat to every living being in the galaxy. He couldn't afford to fail. The transport ship was sleek, a far cry from the heavy armor and brute force of human military vessels. It was made for speed and stealth, exactly what Sam needed for this mission. He stepped aboard, his mind focused entirely on the task ahead. There was no room for doubt or hesitation. As the ship's engines hummed to life, the atmosphere inside the cockpit grew tense. Sam wasn't sure of who to trust yet, if anyone. He had no idea who these alien operatives were, but he had been given little choice in the matter. He was here to get the job done, not to make friends. He settled into the pilot's seat, the soft hum of the engines vibrating through his bones. Outside, the black void of space stretched endlessly, but within that darkness, Sam found his resolve. It was time to show the galaxy what one human could do. The transport ship shuddered as it cut through the vacuum of space, its sleek hull gliding past asteroid fields and debris from long-forgotten wars. Sam Blake was seated in the cockpit, his fingers drumming lightly on the controls, his eyes fixed on the black void ahead. The alien operatives sat silently in the back, their forms moving in and out of his peripheral vision, too unfamiliar to trust completely. This wasn't a diplomatic mission. It wasn't about making allies or earning respect. This was a kill mission. Sam had a singular objective: infiltrate the enemy flagship, plant the charge, and get the hell out. Simple, efficient, and deadly. The Christians were merciless conquerors, an empire that had torn through dozens of star systems, leaving nothing behind but ruin. The flagship, the Zarek, was a fortress, armored beyond anything humanity had ever built, bristling with weapons designed to annihilate any fleet that dared to challenge it. Sam's mind replayed the brief the Council had given him. "This is your chance to prove humanity's worth. You succeed, you earn your place." It had sounded simple enough in the briefing room. Now, it felt like a death sentence. The ship's AI crackled to life, breaking the silence. "Approaching enemy territory. Estimated time of arrival, 20 minutes. Sam's grip tightened on the controls. He could feel the weight of the mission bearing down on him. 20 minutes. He had no time for mistakes. The operatives in the back were skilled, he knew that much, but he wasn't here to babysit them. He was here to make sure the job got done. A low rumble reverberated through the ship as it slowed, entering the Christian-controlled sector. Sam glanced over his shoulder at the alien soldiers. There were 3 of them, tall, armored, and silent. They had given him little in the way of introductions, and he wasn't in the mood to engage in pointless conversation. He trusted them as far as he could throw them. It didn't matter. He didn't need them to survive. He needed them to follow orders. "Ready up," Sam said, his voice cutting through the quiet. "We're entering their space. It's about to get real." One of the operatives, a lithe creature with bioluminescent markings across its skin, nodded. The other 2 remained motionless, their weapons already secured on their backs. Sam didn't need to see their faces to know they were as tense as he was. Every second spent in enemy territory felt like a countdown. The Zarek loomed ahead on their scanners, a shadowy behemoth with shields at full power. It was just as the Council had described it, massive, nearly invincible. "Approaching Zarek," the ship's AI announced again, its voice robotic and impassive. "Deploy the cloaking field." Sam muttered under his breath, more to himself than anyone else. The ship's hull shimmered briefly, and the faintest ripple of light distorted the surroundings as they activated the stealth systems. The Zarek appeared on the edge of their radar, oblivious to their approach. "Now or never," Sam said, glancing at the operatives. They exchanged a silent nod, understanding that the real work was about to begin. They dropped out of hyperspace too close for comfort, just beyond the Zarek's forward sensor grid. Sam gritted his teeth, fingers moving quickly to engage the ship's secondary systems. They had a narrow window of opportunity, no more than 5 minutes before the Christian vessel's sensors would scan the area. The enemy wouldn't know what hit them. The ship's AI spoke once more. "Cloak failure imminent. 30 seconds until detection." Sam's pulse quickened. He turned in his seat to face the operatives. "You know your roles. Disrupt their engines while I get to the core. We'll rendezvous at the extraction point in 30 minutes. Don't screw this up." With a final glance, Sam grabbed his gear, an assortment of explosives, high-tech hacking devices, and his trusted combat knife, and motioned for the operatives to follow. They filed out in single file, moving like shadows down the narrow corridor. They arrived at the airlock just as the final warning blared through the ship. The door slid open, and Sam stepped into the black void of space. The cold of the unknown bit at his skin, but he was used to it. The ship's exterior was a smooth, gleaming surface, providing minimal cover as they made their descent toward the enemy flagship. The operatives scattered, moving quickly with fluid, almost effortless motions. Sam didn't need to watch them. He kept his attention focused on the Zarek below, feeling the familiar twinge of nerves deep in his gut. His mind cycled through the mission parameters again, calculating every possible outcome. The enemy would notice them soon enough. That was a given. He hit the ship's surface with a soft thud, his boots magnetically attaching to the hull. His hand reached up to his helmet, activating the HUD to map out the Zarek's layout. The breach was set, and all he had to do was slip inside, plant the charges, and leave. Nothing complicated. 30 seconds until detection, the AI warned. Sam took a deep breath, pushing the nerves aside. As the countdown ticked down, the stealth field around the ship flickered and began to fail, just as expected. The Zarek sensors came online, and the alarm systems began to blare. "Time's up," Sam muttered. He activated the thrusters in his boots, sending himself careening toward the docking bay where he would breach the Zarek's defenses. The rest of the team would have to fend for themselves. His job was to disable the Christian's superweapon. They had a limited window, too long, and the enemy would lock them down with firepower too powerful to escape. The door to the docking bay slid open, and Sam rolled inside, weapons ready. He immediately pressed himself flat against the wall, his eyes scanning the area. It was a large, open space, but no soldiers yet. "Now we wait," Sam whispered, adjusting his grip on the weapon. Seconds ticked by like minutes, the tension in the air thick enough to cut through with a knife. His heart pounded in his chest. But he knew this part of the mission all too well. They would come, and when they did, it would be a bloodbath. Suddenly, a burst of movement, figures in armored suits stormed into the bay. Sam smiled grimly. Game on. The sounds of distant sirens echoed through the halls of the Zarek, reverberating off its steel walls. Sam Blake moved silently through the shadows, every step calculated, every breath steady. His combat knife was drawn, the blade glinting with deadly intent as he crept closer to the central core of the ship. The Christian soldiers had arrived in force, but he had expected that. This was where the real work began. The charge had been set. The timer was ticking, and all he needed was a few more minutes to make sure the Zarek's superweapon would be nothing but a pile of scrap. Then, the mission would be over, and humanity would have one hell of a story to tell. Sam reached the core's access panel. The steel door was locked, but a few well-placed hacks and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the core of the Zarek hummed with power, its energy pulsating through the room like a living thing. The superweapon was housed here, a massive, sleek array of technology capable of erasing entire planets from existence. He didn't have time to admire it. All that mattered now was getting the explosive device into the right place. He was about to begin planting the charge when his comms crackled to life, the voice of the alien operative he'd been working with earlier slicing through the silence. "Blake, we've been compromised. The Christians have activated the internal lockdown. They know you're here." Sam's jaw tightened. The operatives were still in the field, fighting for their lives. He made it this far alone, but he wasn't about to let them down now. "Hold them off," he ordered. "I'll finish what I started." "You can't do it alone," the operative replied, a slight tremor in his voice. "The Christians, they're everywhere. I'm already inside the core room. Just give me 5 more minutes." There was a brief pause. "Understood. But don't expect us to hold out much longer. Hurry, Blake." The line went dead, and Sam didn't waste another second. His focus snapped back to the task at hand. With a fluid motion, he dropped the explosive into the energy conduit and secured it into place. A few tweaks to the interface, and the countdown had begun. They had 30 minutes to get out, or the whole ship would go down with them. His HUD flashed red as movement appeared in his peripheral vision. The door to the core room opened, and 2 Christian soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. Sam's heart rate spiked, but his body moved instinctively. He didn't need to think. His gun was out before they could fire, a burst of precision fire cutting down the first soldier before the second could react. The body hit the floor with a thud. Sam wasn't fazed. His entire existence was built on moments like this, silent, deadly efficiency. He turned to the console and tapped a few more commands. The countdown had begun. The Zarek would be in pieces soon. But there was no time to savor it. The Christians would send more troops, and Sam wasn't about to stay around and play their game. He turned to the door, only to be met by a wall of armored soldiers. They filled the doorway, their weapons primed, their eyes narrowed as they assessed the threat in front of them. Sam's pulse quickened. The game had changed. "I don't have time for this," Sam muttered under his breath. Without hesitation, he dropped to a crouch and opened fire. The first few soldiers fell in rapid succession. Their armor, designed to withstand blasts, had no chance against the precision shots Sam placed. His focus was razor sharp, each movement flowing naturally into the next. But there were too many of them. Sam knew he couldn't keep up this pace forever. He needed an exit strategy. Fast. He rolled behind a pillar as more Christians stormed the room, their weapons lighting up the space with flashes of green and red. His body instinctively reacted, ducking, diving, moving with the fluidity of someone who had spent years perfecting this craft. Another soldier lunged toward him. Sam's knife was already in his hand, a flash of silver as he stabbed it into the soldier's side. The alien let out a strangled cry as he crumpled to the floor. But even as Sam fought, his mind was calculating. The charge was still set. The countdown clock was ticking down, less than 25 minutes now. He couldn't get bogged down here. The exit was too far, and the soldiers were closing in too fast. Sam needed to move. He pivoted on his heel, kicking one soldier in the chest hard enough to send him crashing into a wall. The others faltered for a moment, giving Sam the opening he needed. He bolted for the hallway, slipping out of the core room just as the Christians opened fire. The blaster shots whizzed past him, but Sam was already gone. The hallways were a labyrinth of cold steel and flashing emergency lights, the low hum of the Zarek's systems vibrating through the walls. Sam sprinted, his boots pounding against the metal floors, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The exit wasn't far, but with the lockdown in full effect, every door felt like a trap. He turned the corner and froze. Chancellor Vroker stood there, flanked by a dozen heavily armed soldiers. His violet eyes glowed in the dim light, and the sneer on his face was unmistakable. "I knew it," Vroker said, his voice dripping with contempt. "A human, thinking he could defeat us. It's laughable." Sam's grip tightened on his weapon. He didn't have time for speeches. His mind raced. "Keep it simple. Keep it fast." "You've lost, Vroker," Sam replied, the words cold and final. "Your ship is going down. Whether I'm here or not, you can't stop it." Vroker's expression darkened. You think you can escape? You think you're the hero of some story? No one leaves the Zarek alive. I've already won, Sam said, taking a step forward. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Sam was already in motion. He fired 3 quick bursts, 2 soldiers down, another retreating. As Vroker's soldiers scrambled to regroup, Sam moved swiftly, cutting through them with precision. He wasn't just fighting for survival now. He was fighting for Earth, for humanity's place in the galaxy. Finally, with one last burst of energy, Sam reached the extraction point. The transport ship hovered outside, ready to depart. He jumped, landing smoothly on the ship's surface. As it lifted off, he cast one final look at the Zarek, its lights beginning to flicker. The mission was a success. The Zarek would burn, and with it, the Christians' hopes of galactic dominance. Humanity had proved itself. And Sam Blake? He was just getting started.